She helped a struggling kid eat his lunch at a charity event. The video went viral. What she didn't know: the boy's father was the most powerful mafia boss in Chicago, and her simple act of kindness just painted a target on her back. Now the only safe place left is behind his walls. The fork clattered against the plate for the third time. Alessandro Moretti didn't flinch. He'd learned not to. But from across the crowded cafe, he watched his son Marco's trembling hand struggle with a simple act of eating, and something inside his chest tightened like a fist. "Mr. Moretti, perhaps I could." The event coordinator hovered nearby, her smile plastic and uncomfortable. "No." Alessandro's voice was quiet, but sharp enough to cut. The woman retreated. This charity lunch had been a mistake. Alessandro had only agreed because the mayor personally asked, and refusing would have raised questions he didn't need right now. The Riverside Cafe buzzed with Chicago's elite: politicians, businessmen, society wives dripping in diamonds. They stuffed their faces with overpriced salmon while pretending to care about disabled youth programs. None of them looked at Marco. Not really. They'd glance, then quickly look away, as if his cerebral palsy might be contagious. Alessandro's jaw tightened. He'd built an empire on fear and respect, but he couldn't protect his son from pity. Marco dropped the fork again. His face flushed red with frustration, that familiar look of defeat creeping into his 15-year-old eyes. Alessandro started to rise from his seat when, "Hey there, buddy. That salmon's putting up quite a fight, huh?" A young woman in a simple black waitress uniform appeared at Marco's side. She couldn't have been more than 23, with dark curly hair pulled into a messy bun and the kind of genuine smile Alessandro hadn't seen in years. Before Alessandro could wave her off, she knelt down. Actually knelt, bringing herself to Marco's eye level. "I'm Rosa," she said, completely ignoring the nervous whispers around her. "Mind if I tell you a secret?" Marco blinked, caught off guard. He managed a small nod. Rosa leaned in conspiratorially. "I hate salmon. Like, seriously hate it. But you know what? I bet if we team up, we can take it down together. What do you say?" The corner of Marco's mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Alessandro found himself frozen, watching this stranger do what dozens of trained professionals couldn't. She was treating Marco like a person, not a problem. "Okay, strategy time," Rosa continued, picking up the fork with easy confidence. "We're gonna go for that piece right there. See it? The one that looks like it's trying to escape. On 3. 1. 2-inch. She paused dramatically. 3. Marco tried to say it, the word coming out garbled but enthusiastic. Rosa guided a piece to his mouth with practiced ease, but it didn't feel clinical. It felt normal, like she was helping a friend, not performing a duty. "Victory," Rosa announced, and Marco actually laughed. A real, genuine laugh that made Alessandro's throat constrict. When was the last time he'd heard that sound? Around them, the cafe had gone quieter. People were watching now, but differently. Not with pity. With something else. "You're pretty strong, you know that?" Rosa said, loading another bite. "My little brother has CP2. He's 9. Kid's got an arm like a cannon. Knocked out my front tooth playing catch last summer." She pointed to her smile. "See? Fake. Cost me $300. Marco's eyes widened with delight. "Yeah, brutal, right? So I know you're tougher than you look," she winked. "This salmon doesn't stand a chance." Alessandro watched, transfixed. His son, the boy who barely made eye contact with strangers, who shut down in crowds, was engaged. Smiling. Trying to tell Rosa something about his physical therapy. She listened like every word mattered. "No way." Rosa gasped at something Marco communicated. "You can do 30 minutes on the standing frame now?" "Dude, that's incredible. My brother maxes out at 10 and then acts like he climbed Mount Everest." 20 minutes passed. Alessandro didn't move from his position against the wall, watching this young waitress turn lunch into laughter. She never once looked at him, never tried to impress the men everyone else in the room feared. She only cared about Marco. When the plate was empty, Rosa high-fived Marco, carefully positioning her hand so he could actually connect with it. Absolutely crushed it, she declared. Same time next week for round 2. Marco's nod was vigorous. Rosa stood, ruffled his hair gently, and only then seemed to remember the rest of the world existed. Her eyes met Alessandro's for just a second. She gave a small, slightly embarrassed shrug, as if to say, "Just doing my job." Then she disappeared back into the kitchen before he could even say thank you. Alessandro sat back down next to Marco, who was still grinning, more animated than he'd been in months.
Dad, she was.
Cool. Marco managed, the words slow but clear. Yes, son. She was. Across the room, Alessandro noticed several people with their phones out.
Great.
The last thing he needed was attention. But when he glanced at Marco's face, still lit up with joy, he decided it didn't matter. What he didn't know was that in 3 hours, a video titled "Faith in Humanity Restored" would have 500,000 views. By midnight, it would have 5 million. And Rosa Martinez's quiet life was about to explode. Rosa's feet were killing her. She dumped a tray of dirty dishes in the industrial sink and checked her phone. 6:47 p.m. Just over an hour left on her shift, then she could finally go home, peel off these shoes, and collapse on her couch with leftover pizza. Hey, Rosa. Jenny, one of the other waitresses, burst through the kitchen door, her eyes wide. Did you see it? See what? Rosa scrubbed at a stubborn spot on a plate. The video. You're all over Twitter. Rosa's stomach dropped. What video? Jenny thrust her phone in Rosa's face. The screen showed a shaky video of Rosa kneeling beside a teenage boy in a wheelchair, laughing and feeding him lunch. The caption read, "This waitress just restored my faith in humanity." Rosa's heart hammered. Oh no. No, no, no. Oh yes. Jenny squealed. Girl, you've got like 1 million views already. Look at the comments. Rosa didn't want to look at the comments. She wanted to disappear into the walk-in freezer and hide until this all went away. But Jenny was already scrolling, reading aloud. This made me cry. We need more people like her. That smile on the kid's face. I'm not crying, you're crying. Jenny, please. Wait, there's more. Someone said you should get a raise. Oh, and this person wants to nominate you for some humanitarian award. Jenny looked up, beaming. Rosa, you're famous. Famous. The word made Rosa's mouth go dry. She didn't want to be famous. She just wanted to pay her rent, help her mom with bills, and maybe save enough to take a real vacation someday. She'd helped that kid because that's what you do. You help people. Her little brother Danny had CP. She knew how people looked at him sometimes, like he was invisible or fragile or both. That boy at the charity lunch had the same look in his eyes that Danny got when strangers talked over him instead of to him. It wasn't heroic. It was just human. I need to finish my shift, Rosa muttered, pushing past Jenny. But the universe had other plans. Her phone started buzzing. Text after text from numbers she didn't recognize. Friend requests poured in on Facebook. Her Instagram, which had maybe 200 followers this morning, now showed notifications in the thousands. Rosa Martinez? A woman's voice called from the dining area. Rosa peeked through the kitchen door. A blonde woman in a sharp blazer stood near the entrance, holding a microphone. Behind her, a cameraman adjusted his equipment. Oh God, Rosa whispered. Channel 7 News, the woman announced loudly, scanning the room. We're looking for the waitress from the viral video, Rosa Martinez. Every head in the cafe turned toward the kitchen. Rosa's manager, Frank, appeared at her elbow. Rosa, you don't have to talk to them if you don't want to. I don't want to, Rosa said quickly. Frank nodded and marched into the dining room. Folks, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. We don't ambush our staff. Sir, we just want 2 minutes. Not happening. Out. Rosa sagged against the wall, grateful. Frank was gruff but fair. He'd always been good to her. Through the window, she could see more news vans pulling up outside. A small crowd had gathered on the sidewalk, phones raised, recording. This was insane. Back door, Frank said, returning to the kitchen. Go home. Take tomorrow off if you need to. Frank, I'm so sorry. For what? Being a decent person? He shook his head. Just be careful out there, kid. Internet fame is weird. People get crazy. Rosa grabbed her jacket and backpack, slipping out through the delivery entrance. The alley was blessedly empty. She pulled her hoodie up and kept her head down, walking quickly toward the bus stop 3 blocks away. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. She finally looked at it while waiting for the bus. The video had been shared by major news outlets now.
Sam.
NBC. Even some celebrities she'd never heard of had retweeted it with crying emojis. The headline on one article made her cringe. Waitress helps disabled teen eat at charity event. A pure moment in a cold world. Another read, Chicago waitress shows us what true kindness looks like. They were making her into some kind of saint. She wasn't. She was just a girl who worked double shifts and could barely afford her studio apartment. Rosa clicked on the comments section of one article. Big mistake. Most were positive, but some made her stomach churn. Bet she's doing this for attention, probably hoping for a big tip from that rich family. Why is everyone acting like basic human decency deserves a medal? That last one stung, because it was kind of true. Why was this such a big deal? Shouldn't helping someone be normal? The bus arrived. Rosa slumped into a seat near the back, exhausted. Across from her, a teenage girl glanced up from her phone, then did a double take. Her eyes widened in recognition. She elbowed her friend and whispered something. Rosa closed her eyes and pretended to sleep. When she finally got home to her cramped studio apartment, she locked the door, kicked off her shoes, and face-planted onto her bed. Her phone lit up with another notification. Then another. And another. Rosa turned it off completely and buried her face in her pillow. Outside, in the city that never quite slept, her name trended on 3 different social media platforms. News segments aired her story between weather reports and traffic updates. Think pieces were being written about kindness in modern America. And in a penthouse office overlooking Lake Michigan, Alessandro Moretti watched the video for the 7th time, his expression unreadable. He picked up his phone and made a call. Find her, he said simply. I want to know everything about Rosa Martinez. Alessandro Moretti didn't do sentiment. In 30 years of running the most powerful crime family in Chicago, he'd learned that emotions were liabilities, weaknesses to exploit. He'd buried friends, eliminated enemies, and built an empire on the principle that feelings got you killed. But at 6 a.m. on Tuesday morning, he sat in his mahogany-paneled office and watched a 23-year-old waitress make his son laugh for the 8th time. Boss. Vincent Calabrese, his consigliere and oldest friend, stood in the doorway holding 2 cups of coffee. He'd seen Alessandro through gang wars, federal investigations, and his wife's death 5 years ago. Very little surprised him anymore. But right now, he looked concerned. You've been watching that video for an hour, Vincent said carefully, setting a cup on the desk. What's going on? Alessandro didn't answer. He just hit replay again. On screen, Rosa knelt beside Marco, her whole face lit up with genuine joy. Not pity, not duty, just connection. She made Marco feel normal.
Scene.
When was the last time Alessandro had done that for his own son? Find her, Alessandro said quietly. Vincent blinked. What? Rosa Martinez. The waitress. I want to know where she lives, where she works, if she has family. Everything. Boss, with all due respect, we've got the Romano situation heating up, the shipment coming in Friday, and… Vincent, Alessandro's voice was soft, but it carried weight. Find her. Vincent studied his face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I'll make some calls. By noon, a folder sat on Alessandro's desk. Rosa Elena Martinez, 23, born and raised in Chicago's South Side. One brother, Daniel, age 9, cerebral palsy. Mother worked as a nurse at County Hospital. Father died in a construction accident when Rosa was 12. No criminal record. No debts beyond student loans. Worked at Riverside Cafe for 2 years, picked up shifts at a grocery store on weekends. She was clean,
Honest.
struggling to make ends meet like half the city. Alessandro closed the folder and made a decision that would have baffled anyone who knew him. Get the car, he told Vincent. I'm going to the cafe. The lunch rush at Riverside Cafe was in full swing when Alessandro walked through the door. The effect was immediate. Conversations died mid-sentence. Silverware stopped clinking. Frank, the manager, went pale. Everyone in Chicago knew Alessandro Moretti's face, even if they pretended not to. Alessandro ignored them all. His eyes scanned the dining room until he spotted her, Rosa, balancing 3 plates on her arms, looking tired and harassed. She hadn't noticed him yet. Mr. Moretti, Frank appeared at his elbow, practically trembling. Sir, if there's a problem. No problem, Alessandro said calmly. I'm here to see Rosa. Frank's eyes widened. Rosa? Our Rosa? Is there another one?
No, sir.
I'll get her. Alessandro watched Frank scurry across the dining room and whisper urgently in Rosa's ear. Her head snapped up, and her eyes found Alessandro's across the crowded cafe. She looked terrified. Alessandro felt an unexpected pang of guilt. He was used to people being afraid of him. It came with the territory. But he didn't want her to be afraid. Rosa approached slowly, and he could see her hands shaking slightly. Mr. Moretti, can I help you? Up close, he could see the dark circles under her eyes. The video had clearly taken its toll. Is there somewhere we can talk privately? He asked, keeping his voice gentle. She hesitated, then nodded toward a small office in the back. They walked past tables of gawking customers, Rosa very aware that every eye in the room was on them. The office was cramped, barely enough room for a desk and 2 chairs. Rosa stood with her arms crossed defensively, and Alessandro realized he was towering over her in this small space. He sat down first, making himself less intimidating. You're probably wondering why I'm here, he began. Look, if this is about the video, I didn't know anyone was recording, Rosa said quickly. I wasn't trying to, I didn't do it for attention or... Rosa, he held up a hand, stopping her. I'm not here because I'm angry. I'm here to thank you. She blinked. Thank me? My son hasn't laughed like that in 3 years, Alessandro said, and he was surprised by the rawness in his own voice. Not since his mother died. Yesterday, you gave him something I couldn't. You made him feel like a regular kid. Not a disability. Not a burden. Just.
Marco.
Rosa's defensive posture softened. He's not a burden. He's a great kid. You spent 20 minutes with him. Yeah, and in those 20 minutes, I could tell, she shrugged. He's got a good sense of humor.
He's smart.
He needs people to give him a chance, to actually see him. Alessandro felt something crack in his chest. This waitress, this stranger, understood his son better than most of the people in Alessandro's life. Why'd you help him? He asked. Really? Rosa met his eyes directly, no fear now. Because my little brother Danny has CP. And I know what it's like when people treat him like he's invisible. Or broken, her voice firmed. Marco's not broken. He just eats differently. So I helped him eat. That's it. Nothing special. But it was special. At least to Alessandro. You have a good heart, he said quietly. Rosa shifted uncomfortably. I'm just a waitress, Mr. Moretti. You're more than that, he stood, reaching into his jacket. Rosa tensed, but he only pulled out a business card. If you ever need anything, and I mean anything, call this number. She took the card hesitantly. I don't understand. You help my son. I don't forget that. He moved toward the door, then paused. And Rosa? Be careful. The internet makes people famous fast. Not everyone who comes looking for you will have good intentions. He left her standing there, confused and clutching his business card. Outside, Vincent waited by the car. How'd it go? Alessandro slid into the back seat. Put a security detail on her. Discreet. I don't want her to know. Boss. Just do it, Vincent. As they pulled away, Alessandro looked back at the cafe one last time. He had a feeling Rosa Martinez's life was about to get a lot more complicated. And he was going to make damn sure she survived it. Rosa thought yesterday was bad. She was wrong. By Wednesday morning, her full name, workplace, and even her neighborhood had leaked online. Some internet detective had pieced together clues from the video's background and her social media profiles. Now everyone knew exactly where to find her. The cafe's phone rang constantly. Frank stopped answering after the 15th call from reporters. "Rosa, I need you to take the week off," Frank said when she arrived for her shift at 10 a.m. He looked exhausted.
Paid.
"This is getting out of control." "Frank, I can't afford." "I said paid." His voice was firm but kind. "Look outside." Rose appeared through the window. At least a dozen people with cameras and recording equipment crowded the sidewalk. A news van idled at the curb. Several cars she didn't recognize were parked across the street, their occupants watching the cafe entrance. Her stomach nodded. "This is insane." "It'll die down," Frank said, though he didn't sound convinced. "These things always do.
Just
Lay low for a bit." But laying low was impossible when your face was everywhere. Rosa tried to leave through the back entrance, but two bloggers were waiting in the alley. "Rosa!" Rosa Martinez. A young woman with a ring light attached to her phone rushed forward. "I'm from Chi-Town Tea. Can we talk about the video? How does it feel to be an inspiration?" "I'm not. I just need to get home," Rosa said, pulling her hood up. "Just 5 minutes. My followers are dying to know." A man appeared beside Rosa, so suddenly she gasped. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark suit and sunglasses despite the overcast sky. "The lady said no," he stated flatly. The blogger took a step back. "Who are you?" Lost, the man's hand settled on Rosa's elbow, guiding her firmly toward a black SUV parked at the alley's end. "Come on." "Wait, I don't." Rosa tried to pull away, but his grip was gentle yet unyielding. "Mr. Moretti sent me," he said quietly. "You're safe. I'm just getting you home." Rosa's mind raced. Alessandro Moretti had sent someone to protect her. The man opened the SUV's door. Rosa hesitated, every stranger danger warning from childhood screaming in her head. But the bloggers were approaching again, phones raised, and the idea of dealing with more questions made her decision easy. She got in. The drive to her apartment building was silent. The driver, she didn't catch his name, kept checking the mirrors, taking random turns like he was making sure no one followed them. "This is really necessary?" Rosa asked. "You'd be surprised," he replied. When they pulled up to her building, he handed her a phone. "A burner, by the looks of it. Speed dial 1 reaches me." "2 reaches, Mr. Moretti. You see anything suspicious, anyone makes you uncomfortable, you call." "I can take care of myself," Rosa said, but she took the phone anyway. "I'm sure you can, ma'am. But sometimes even capable people need backup." He waited until she was inside before driving away. Rosa's apartment felt like a prison by Thursday afternoon. She'd barely slept. Every time her eyes closed, she imagined cameras outside her window or strangers knocking on her door. Her real phone was now useless. She'd turned off notifications after the 1,000th message from people she didn't know. Some were kind. Most wanted something. Interview requests. Podcast invitations. A brand wanted her to promote their cookware. Someone offered her $5,000 for exclusive rights to her story. Another email, poorly spelled and vaguely threatening, said she was a fake trying to get famous off a disabled kid. That one made her cry. Rosa was microwaving leftover ramen when someone knocked on her door. She froze. "Rosa?" "It's me, Jenna from 3B. Rosa relaxed slightly. Jenna was her neighbor, a grad student who occasionally borrowed sugar. She opened the door. Jenna stood there with her phone out, recording. "Oh my God," you answered. Jenna squealed. "Rosa, my TikTok followers have been begging me to get you on camera. Can you just say hi? Maybe talk about what inspired you to." Rosa shut the door in her face. "Come on," Jenna called through the wood. "I'll split the ad revenue with you." Rosa slid down to the floor, her back against the door, and put her head in her hands. This wasn't her life. She was nobody. She worked 2 jobs, sent money to her mom, and tried to save enough to maybe take a night class eventually. She wasn't built for this. The attention, the scrutiny, the constant feeling of being watched. Her phone, the burner, rang. She stared at it, then answered. Hello. Rosa, it's Alessandro Moretti. His voice was calm, steady, somehow reassuring. My man tells me you made it home safely yesterday. Your man practically kidnapped me from an alley. He protected you from harassment. There's a difference, a pause. How are you holding up? Rosa laughed bitterly. My neighbor just tried to film me for TikTok. I've got 17 missed calls on my real phone. Someone on Twitter said I'm probably running a scam. So, living the dream. I'm sorry, Alessandro said, and he sounded like he meant it. I should have warned you better. When someone close to me enters the public eye, even accidentally, things escalate quickly. I'm not close to you. I'm just. You helped my son. That makes you important to me. His tone shifted, became more serious. Rosa, I need you to listen carefully. Some people might try to use you to get to me. You need to be careful who you trust right now. Are you trying to scare me? I'm trying to keep you safe. There was something in his voice, a weight that made Rosa believe he'd seen things she couldn't imagine. Dark things. I didn't ask for this, she whispered. I know, but it's happening anyway, Alessandro exhaled. I have a proposition for you. Come to my home tomorrow. Bring your mother and brother if it makes you feel safer. We'll talk, really talk, about how I can help. No obligations. No cameras. Just a conversation. Rosa wanted to say no. Every instinct told her to stay far away from a man like Alessandro Moretti. But she thought of Marco's laugh. And she thought of her landlord's text from this morning. We need to talk about all the attention your apartment is bringing to the building. What time? She asked. Dominic Romano crushed his cigar into the crystal ashtray and replayed the video one more time. The Riverside Cafe. The Moretti kid. And some nobody waitress making Alessandro look like a human being instead of the cold-blooded killer they all knew him to be. Soft, Dominic muttered. The bastard's getting soft. Across the poker table in the back room of Romano's strip club, 3 of his top men watched their boss with careful eyes. Tommy, Two Fingers Marchetti, Sal Greco, and a new guy, Paulie something, who'd transferred up from Miami. Boss, it's just a video, Tommy said cautiously. Some feel-good internet thing. Means nothing. Means everything. Dominic stood, pacing. He'd been trying to take a bigger piece of Chicago's underworld for 5 years, ever since Alessandro had muscled him out of the dockyard operations. Every move Dominic made, Moretti countered. Every deal Dominic tried to broker, Moretti blocked. But this was different. You see how many people are talking about this girl? Dominic pulled up his phone, scrolling through Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. She's everywhere. And everyone knows she helped Moretti's kid. Which means everyone knows Moretti cares about her. Sal leaned forward. You thinking what I think you're thinking? I'm thinking that Alessandro Moretti has spent 30 years making sure nobody can touch him. No weaknesses. No pressure points, Dominic smiled slowly. But this girl? She's exposed. Vulnerable. And the whole world knows he's grateful to her. We grab her, we send a message, Tommy said, catching on. Better than that. We use her to bring him to the table. Make him negotiate. Dominic's eyes gleamed. I want the waterfront. He gives me those docks. The girl goes home unharmed. He refuses. Dominic shrugged. Well, accidents happen. Paulie, the new guy, shifted uncomfortably. Boss? No disrespect, but going after someone Moretti's protecting, that's asking for a war. We're already in a war, kid. We've just been losing. Dominic pointed at his phone. But Alessandro made a mistake. He showed the world something he cares about. That's leverage. We need to move fast, Sal said. Before he locks her down completely. Then we move fast, Dominic turned to Tommy. I want eyes on her. Where she lives, where she works, when she's alone. Get photos. I want to know her routine inside and out. Tommy nodded. I'll put Frankie and DeMarco on it. And, Tommy, make sure they're discreet. Last thing we need is Moretti's guys spotting surveillance. They're professionals, boss. Dominic picked up a cigar, relit it, and stared at the frozen image of Rosa's smiling face on his phone screen. Alessandro Moretti thinks he's untouchable, Dominic said quietly. Let's teach him different. The photographs arrived on Alessandro's desk Friday morning. Vincent laid them out in a grim line. Rosa leaving her apartment building. Rosa at a bus stop. Rosa walking alone down a dark street, clearly unaware she was being watched. Each photo was time-stamped, each one taken from a different angle. Professional work. And that's what made Alessandro's blood run cold. Romano. Alessandro's voice was dangerously quiet. Has to be, Vincent pointed to one photo. This angle, that's from the building across from her apartment. Someone rented a unit there, probably under a fake name. They've been watching her for at least 2 days. Alessandro studied each image, his jaw tightening. In every photo, Rosa looked tired, stressed, vulnerable. An easy target. Where are our guys? Rotating shifts. We've had someone on her since Tuesday, but Vincent hesitated. Boss, we're stretched thin. The Romano situation, the shipment security, the meeting with the Italians next week. We can't put a full detail on a civilian without raising questions. She's not just a civilian anymore. She's not family either, Vincent said carefully. People are already talking. You visited her at work. You sent Tony to drive her home. Now surveillance photos from Romano? This is escalating fast. Alessandro stood, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. The water was gray and choppy, reflecting his mood. How many men does Romano have? 20, maybe 30 soldiers. Half of ours, but they're hungry. Reckless, Vincent joined him at the window. If they're watching Rosa, they're planning something. We need to make a decision. What kind of decision? Either we pull back, stop protecting her, let this blow over naturally, or we bring her in. Full protection. But if we do that, Vincent trailed off. If we do that, we're admitting she matters, Alessandro finished. Which makes her an even bigger target. Exactly. Alessandro thought of Marco's face in that video. Pure joy. The kind of happiness Alessandro hadn't been able to give his son despite all his power and money. Rosa had given Marco that gift without asking for anything in return. And now she was in danger because of it. Double her security detail, Alessandro said. I don't care how stretched we are. Put Tony and Marcus on her full-time. If Romano's people get within 50 feet of her, I want to know about it. Boss. And, Vincent, send Romano a message. Let him know that anyone who touches Rosa Martinez answers to me directly. Make it clear. Vincent nodded slowly. What about the girl? She's supposed to come here tomorrow. You really think that's wise? Bringing her deeper into this. Alessandro turned from the window.
She's already in this.
At least here, behind these walls, I can keep her safe. And if she says no? If she wants nothing to do with us? Then we protect her anyway, Alessandro's voice was steel. I don't care if she never speaks to me again. I won't let Romano use her to get to me. Vincent gathered the photographs, but Alessandro stopped him. Leave one, Alessandro said. Vincent raised an eyebrow but left a single photo, Rosa at the bus stop, looking over her shoulder, like she could feel eyes on her. After Vincent left, Alessandro sat at his desk and studied the image. He'd built his empire on one simple rule: never show weakness. But watching Rosa help his son, seeing her genuine kindness in a world full of calculated moves and hidden agendas that had cracked something inside him. And now that crack might get her killed. Alessandro picked up his phone and texted Tony, "Stay close tonight. Romano's moving." The response came immediately, "Copy that, boss. She's secure." Alessandro set down his phone and looked at the photo again. "I'm sorry," he said to the empty office. Tomorrow, he'd have to tell Rosa the truth. Helping Marco had painted a target on her back. And the only way to keep her safe might be to pull her completely into his world. The Moretti estate wasn't what Rosa expected. She'd imagined something dark and imposing, all iron gates and security cameras, like a fortress. Instead, the sprawling property in Lake Forest looked almost peaceful. Manicured gardens, a stone fountain, trees that had probably been growing for 100 years. It could have been any wealthy family's home, except for the armed guards at every entrance. Tony, the man who'd driven her from the alley 2 days ago, opened her car door. "Mr. Moretti is waiting in the garden room. This way, ma'am." Rosa's mother had wanted to come, but Danny had physical therapy this morning. So Rosa was alone, walking through a mansion that probably cost more than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes, about to have a conversation that terrified her. The garden room was beautiful, glass walls overlooking a private courtyard, comfortable furniture, and warm afternoon light streaming in. Marco sat in his wheelchair near the window, and his face lit up when he saw her. "Rosa!" His voice was excited, clearer than it had been at the cafe. "Hey, buddy." Rosa's anxiety melted a little. She walked over and gave him a high five. "How've you been?"
Good. Dad said.
"You were coming." "I didn't believe him." "Well, here I am." Rosa smiled. "You been behaving? Eating your vegetables?" Marco made a face that made her laugh. "Miss Martinez," Alessandro's voice came from the doorway. He wore a simple dark sweater and slacks, less intimidating than the suit from the cafe, but his presence still filled the room. "Thank you for coming. Mr. Moretti, please sit." He gestured to the couch. "Can I get you something? Coffee?
Tea.
I'm fine. Thanks." Rosa sat, very aware of how out of place she felt. Alessandro settled into a chair across from her, and for a moment, no one spoke. Marco wheeled closer to Rosa, content just to be near her. "I owe you an apology," Alessandro began. "I didn't realize how much that video would disrupt your life." "It's not your fault," Rosa said, though part of her wondered if it kind of was. "Actually, it is.
People in my
line of work, they pay attention to who I care about. And I made it very clear that I'm grateful to you." Alessandro's expression was serious. "That's made you visible to people you don't want to be visible to." Rosa's stomach tightened. "The photos." Alessandro's eyes sharpened. "You know about those? Someone left an envelope under my door yesterday. Pictures of me walking around my neighborhood." Rosa's voice shook slightly. "No note.
Just
photos." Alessandro's jaw clenched. He glanced at Tony, who stood by the door. Some silent communication passed between them. "That's why you're here," Alessandro said. "Rosa, I need to be honest with you. There are people in this city who would hurt you to hurt me. Not because of anything you've done, but because you showed kindness to my son. So, what am I supposed to do?" Rosa asked. "Quit my job? Move? Pretend I never met Marco?" "No," Alessandro leaned forward. "I'm offering you protection. Real protection. A job, if you want it, helping with Marco's care. You'd live here on the estate, completely safe. Your family too, if they're willing." Rosa blinked. "You want me to move in here?" "I want you to be safe," Alessandro corrected. "Marco's therapists are excellent, but they don't connect with him the way you did. He's been asking about you every day since the lunch." Rosa looked at Marco, who was watching her hopefully. "I know what you're thinking," Alessandro continued. "You're thinking that getting involved with someone like me is dangerous. And you're right. But I'm telling you, you're already involved. The question is whether you face it alone or with my protection." "This is insane," Rosa whispered. 3 days ago, I was just a waitress." "You're still just a waitress," Alessandro said gently. "But circumstances have changed. And I'm trying to help you navigate them." Rosa stood, pacing to the window. Her mind raced. Living here would mean safety, sure. But it would also mean stepping into a world she didn't understand. A world where people left threatening photos under doors and armed guards were normal. "What about my mom?" she asked. "My brother? They'd be protected too. I can arrange security for them, or they can live here with you. Whatever makes you comfortable. And my job at the cafe? You'd work here. With Marco. The pay would be..." Alessandro named a figure that made Rosa's knees weak. It was triple what she made now, plus room and board. She could pay off her student loans, help her mom retire early.
Get Danny the best therapists.
But at what cost? Rosa, Alessandro said quietly, I'm not asking you to become part of my business. I'm offering you a safe place and meaningful work. Marco needs someone who sees him, not his limitations. That's you. Rosa turned to look at Marco, who was trying hard to read her expression. Do you want me here? She asked him directly. Marco's nod was immediate and enthusiastic.
Yes. You're cool.
You don't
Treat me like.
a baby. Rosa's heart squeezed. How could she say no to that? But how could she say yes? I need time, she said finally.
To think. To talk to my family.
Of course, Alessandro stood. Take all the time you need. But Rosa? Until you decide, you're still under my protection. My men will keep you safe whether you work for me or not. Why? Rosa asked. Why do you care this much? Alessandro looked at his son, and his expression softened in a way Rosa suspected few people ever saw. Because you gave me back something I thought I'd lost, he said quietly. You gave me hope that Marco could have a normal life, that he could be happy. He met her eyes. That's not something I can repay, but I can try to protect you, even if you walk away right now. Rosa nodded slowly, overwhelmed. As Tony drove her home an hour later, Rosa stared out the window at the city passing by. Her quiet life was gone. That was clear now. The only question was whether she'd face what came next alone or behind the walls of the Moretti estate. She had no idea which choice would save her, or which one would destroy her. Rosa thought sleeping on the decision would help. It didn't. By Saturday morning, her phone, the real one she'd finally turned back on, exploded with notifications. She scrolled through them with growing horror. Chicago Gossip Daily had posted an article at 2 a.m. Moretti's mystery woman, more than just a good Samaritan. The article was filled with speculation and thinly veiled insinuations. It noted how quickly Alessandro had visited the cafe, how Rosa had been seen entering his estate alone, how sources close to the family suggested Marco's caregiving was just a convenient cover story. The comment section was vicious. She knew exactly what she was doing. Probably planned the whole thing. Gold digger vibes. Acts sweet, targets a mob boss with a disabled kid. Classic. I feel bad for the kid. She's probably using him to get to the father's money. Rosa felt sick. By noon, 3 more gossip sites had picked up the story. Someone had found her old Instagram photos and was analyzing them for clues about her relationship with Alessandro. A YouTube channel did a 15-minute breakdown of the original video, pointing out how Rosa strategically positioned herself in frame. It was all lies. All of it. But the internet didn't care about truth. Rosa's phone buzzed. A text from Frank. Don't come in tomorrow. Maybe not next week either.
I'm sorry.
Her hands shook as she typed back. What?
Why?
People are camping outside asking about you. It's affecting business. I need this to cool down. She stared at the message. Frank had always been good to her. This wasn't his fault.
But it stung anyway.
Another text came through, this time from her landlord, Mr. Kowalski. Need to discuss your lease. Stop by office today. Rosa knew what that meant. She pulled on jeans and a hoodie, trying to look as invisible as possible, and headed downstairs. In the building's small management office, Mr. Kowalski sat behind his desk looking uncomfortable. Rosa, you're a good tenant. Always paid on time, no complaints. But, Rosa prompted. But there've been men hanging around, watching the building. And reporters keep bothering other tenants, asking questions about you, he sighed. Yesterday, someone tried to sneak into the building pretending to deliver flowers. Mrs. Chun on the second floor is scared. Mr. Kowalski, I didn't ask for any of this. I know, he held up his hands. I'm not blaming you, kid. But trouble follows you now, and I can't have that here. I've got elderly residents, families with young kids. So I'm asking nicely, if maybe you could find somewhere else to stay. At least until this blows over. Rosa's chest tightened. You're evicting me? I'm suggesting you might be happier elsewhere, he said carefully. Your lease is up in 6 weeks anyway. I'm not going to renew it. I'm sorry. Rosa walked back to her apartment in a daze. 6 weeks to find a new place. In a city where rent was already crushing her. While unemployed. With her face plastered across gossip sites.
Perfect.
She was making tea when she noticed a car parked across the street. A black sedan, windows tinted. It had been there when she left and was still there now. Alessandro's protection, probably. But as she watched, her coworker Jenny pulled up to the building and got out of her car. She spotted the sedan immediately, glanced up at Rosa's window, and her expression shifted from friendly to suspicious. Rosa's phone rang. Jenny. So, are you going to tell me what's going on? Jenny asked without preamble. What do you mean? Rosa, there are guys in suits watching your apartment. Frank told us not to contact you. And those articles. Jenny's voice dropped. Are you really involved with Alessandro Moretti?
No. God, no.
Jenny, those articles are lies. I just helped his son eat lunch. That's all. Then why is he protecting you? Why did he visit the cafe? Rosa, people are saying. I don't care what people are saying, Rosa snapped, surprising herself. None of it's true. Silence on the line. Jenny, I'm not some gold digger or whatever they're calling me. I helped a kid. That's literally all I did. Okay, Jenny said, but she didn't sound convinced. I believe you. But Rosa? Be careful.
Getting mixed up with people like that.
It never ends well. After Jenny hung up, Rosa sat on her couch and finally let herself cry. Her job was gone. Her apartment was gone. Her reputation was destroyed by people who didn't know her. Her coworkers thought she was a liar. Strangers on the internet called her names. And somewhere out there, dangerous people were taking photos of her because she'd committed the crime of being kind. Her burner phone rang. Alessandro. She almost didn't answer. But what choice did she have? Rosa, his voice was concerned. I saw the articles. I'm sorry. You're sorry? Rosa laughed bitterly. Your world is destroying mine, and you're sorry? Tell me what you need. I need my normal life back. The words exploded out of her. I need people to stop lying about me. I need to not be afraid every time I leave my apartment. I need. Her voice broke. Come here, Alessandro said quietly.
Today. Right now.
Bring whatever you need. You can stay in the guest house, completely separate from the main estate if that makes you comfortable. But Rosa, you're not safe out there anymore. I don't know if I'm safe with you either, she whispered. Maybe not. But at least here, I can protect you from everyone else. Rosa looked around her tiny apartment, at the life she'd built from nothing after her father died, at the independence she'd fought so hard for. All of it crumbling because she'd been kind to a lonely boy. Okay, she heard herself say. I'll come. I'll send Tony.
No.
I'll take an Uber.
I need to do this myself, she paused.
But Alessandro? I'm not agreeing to anything permanent. I just need somewhere safe while this dies down. Understood, he said. The gate will be expecting you. After hanging up, Rosa packed a suitcase with shaking hands. She didn't know if she was making the right choice. She only knew she was out of other options. Rosa was zipping up her second suitcase when someone knocked on her door. She froze. The knock came again, urgent, insistent. Rosa Martinez? Channel 9 News. We'd love to get your side of the story. Rosa exhaled. Another reporter. She ignored it, continuing to pack. Ms. Martinez, we're willing to pay for an exclusive interview. Very generously. Go away. Rosa called through the door. Silence. Then footsteps retreating down the hall. Rosa grabbed her phone to call the Uber when she heard voices outside her window. Male voices, trying to sound casual, but with an edge that made her skin prickle. She moved to the window carefully, peering through the blinds. 3 men stood on the sidewalk below, not quite looking up, but clearly watching her building. They wore casual clothes, jeans, jackets, but something about their posture was wrong. Too alert. Too focused. One of them pulled out a phone and spoke into it. Rosa's heart hammered. These weren't reporters. Movement caught her eye. The black sedan that had been parked across the street suddenly pulled forward, cutting off the three men's path. Two men in dark suits emerged quickly. Tony and another man Rosa didn't recognize. She couldn't hear what they were saying, but body language told the story. Tony stepped into the space of one of the men, aggressive, territorial. The other suit moved to block any escape route. The three men tried to play it casual, hands up, backing away. But Tony grabbed one by the jacket, yanking him close, saying something that made the man's face go pale. Then, just as quickly as it started, it was over. The three men hurried to a beat-up sedan and sped away. Tony looked up at Rosa's window, gave a small nod, and returned to his position. Rosa's legs felt weak. She sat on her bed, trying to steady her breathing. Those men had been coming for her. She knew it in her bones. Her burner phone rang. She jumped, then answered. "Rosa, are you all right?" Alessandro's voice was tight with tension. "What? How did you?" "Tony just called." "Are you hurt?" "No, I'm fine. I'm inside." "What just happened?" "Men from Romano's crew tried to approach your building. They were posing as reporters, but they're not." Alessandro paused. "Rosa, pack faster. I'm coming to get you myself." "You don't have to. I'm already in the car." 20 minutes later, Alessandro Moretti walked into Rosa's apartment building with four armed men flanking him. Mr. Kowalski took one look and disappeared into his office. Rosa opened her door before Alessandro could knock. He looked different than she'd seen him before, not composed and controlled, but barely contained fury mixed with something that looked like fear. "Are you hurt?" he asked immediately, his eyes scanning her. "I'm fine. Just scared." Alessandro stepped inside, and his men took positions in the hallway. He closed the door, and suddenly the small apartment felt even smaller with his presence filling it. "I should have moved you sooner," he said quietly. "This is my fault." "You keep saying that." "Because it's true." Alessandro ran a hand through his hair. The first time Rosa had seen him look anything less than perfectly controlled. "Dominic Romano wants to hurt me. And he's decided the best way to do that is through you." Rosa sat on her couch, hugging a pillow. "I don't understand this world. Why would hurting me hurt you? I'm nobody." "You're not nobody." Alessandro sat across from her, elbows on his knees, meeting her eyes directly. "You're the person who made my son laugh, who treated him like he matters. And in my world, that means something. In my world, it's just being a decent human." "I know. That's why you don't belong in this." Alessandro's voice was rough. "But you're in it anyway, and I can't pull you out. All I can do is keep you safe." Rosa looked at this man, this notorious, feared mafia boss, and saw something unexpected. A father, scared and tired, and trying to protect someone. "Those men outside," Rosa said. "What would they have done if your guys hadn't stopped them?" Alessandro's jaw tightened. "Nothing good." "Would they have killed me?" "No. Romano's not that stupid. But they would have grabbed you, used you as leverage, scared you, maybe hurt you enough to send a message." His eyes were dark. "And I would have started a war to get you back." The certainty in his voice shook her. "Why?" Rosa whispered. "Why risk a war for someone you barely know?" Alessandro was quiet for a long moment. "When my wife Maria died, Marco stopped talking. For 6 months, not a word. The doctors said it was trauma, that he'd come back eventually. But I was losing him, not to the cerebral palsy, to grief." He looked at Rosa with raw honesty. "Then you showed up at a charity lunch and made him laugh. Just laugh. Like it was easy. Like he was just a kid." Alessandro's voice cracked slightly. "You gave him back to me, Rosa. So yes, I'd risk a war. I'd risk everything. Because you saved my son in a way I couldn't." Rosa felt tears building. "I'm just a waitress who fed him lunch." "No." Alessandro stood, gentle but firm. "You're the reason my son smiled again. And that means more to me than any business deal, any territory, any amount of money." He held out his hand. "Please, let me keep you safe. Not because you owe me, because I owe you." Rosa looked at his outstretched hand. Behind him, through the window, the city stretched out. Her city, the place she'd grown up, fought to survive in, built her small life. But that life was gone now, taken by circumstances she never asked for. She took his hand. "Okay," she said. "I'll come with you." Alessandro's relief was visible. "Thank you." As his men carried her suitcases down to the waiting SUV, Rosa took one last look at her apartment. She was leaving behind independence and safety and normalcy. She just hoped she wasn't walking into something worse. The guest house at the Moretti estate was nicer than any place Rosa had ever lived. Hardwood floors, a full kitchen, a bedroom with a king-sized bed that felt like sleeping on a cloud, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens. Rosa set her suitcases down and tried not to cry at the absurdity of it all. "You okay?" Alessandro stood in the doorway, giving her space, but clearly concerned. "This is bigger than my apartment," Rosa said. "It's yours for as long as you need it. The main house is 50 yards that way," he pointed. "Marco's room is on the second floor, east wing. His therapy sessions are usually at 9 and 3". "You want me to start tomorrow?" "Only if you're ready. No pressure." Rosa nodded. "I'll be ready." After Alessandro left, Rosa unpacked in silence, trying to process the past week. 7 days ago, she'd been a nobody waitress. Now she lived on a mafia boss's estate under armed protection. Her life had become a bad movie. The next morning, Rosa met Marco's physical therapist, a stern woman named Dr. Patricia Nguyen who looked Rosa up and down like she was assessing competition. "So you're the famous waitress," Dr. Nguyen said coolly. "I'm just Rosa. Mr. Moretti says you have experience with cerebral palsy. My brother has it. I'm not a professional or anything." "That's evident." Dr. Nguyen turned to Marco, who was already grinning at Rosa. "All right, Marco. Let's start with range of motion exercises." Rosa watched for the first 20 minutes, noting how clinical Dr. Nguyen was. Efficient, yes. Knowledgeable, absolutely. But cold. She treated Marco like a patient, not a person. When Dr. Nguyen stepped out to take a phone call, Rosa moved closer to Marco. "How you doing, buddy?" "Bored," Marco said clearly.
She's
"Mean." "She's thorough," Rosa corrected gently. "But yeah, I get it. Hey, you want to learn something cool?" Marco's eyes lit up. "Yeah." Rosa pulled out her phone and showed him a video of Danny using an adaptive utensil. "My brother learned this trick. See how he angles his wrist? Takes practice, but it means he can eat some things without help." "I could
do that."
"I think you could do anything if someone showed you how instead of doing it for you," Rosa smiled. "Want to try after therapy?" Marco's nod was enthusiastic. When Dr. Nguyen returned, she eyed Rosa suspiciously. "I hope you weren't interfering with his exercises. Just keeping him company," Rosa said pleasantly. By the end of the week, Rosa had established a routine. She'd attend Marco's morning therapy, then spend the afternoon working with him on practical skills. They practiced eating techniques, worked on his grip strength with simple games, and really talked about his life. Marco opened up in ways that surprised everyone. "Mom used to read to me," he told Rosa one afternoon while they practiced with adaptive utensils. "Every night. Harry Potter." "Your dad doesn't read to you?" Marco shook his head. "Too busy.
Or
too sad. I think I remind him of her." Rosa's heart ached. "I'm sure he doesn't see it that way." "Maybe." Marco managed to spear a piece of melon on his fork. "You remind me of her."
How she
listened. Rosa had to blink back tears. "Well, I'm listening now. And look at you go. That's 3 bites in a row you've done yourself." Marco beamed with pride. Not everyone in the household was impressed. Rosa heard the whispers. Alessandro's men watched her constantly, and their opinions were mixed. Vincent, the consigliere, observed her with cautious interest. One evening, he approached her in the garden. "You're good with the boy," he said. "Thank you. Question is, why? What's your angle?" Rosa bristled. "I don't have an angle. I like Marco. He's a good kid." Everyone has an angle in this world. Then maybe I'm not from your world, Rosa shot back. Vincent studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Maybe you're not. That might be exactly what this family needs. But others were less accepting. Tony kept his distance, professional but cold. And Marco's previous aide, an older woman named Greta who'd been reassigned, made sure Rosa knew she was unwelcome. You think you're special because the boss likes you? Greta cornered Rosa in the kitchen one morning. Girls like you come and go. Marco needs consistency, not some flavor of the month. I'm not trying to replace you. You already have. Greta's eyes were hard. And when you leave, because you will, that boy will be heartbroken. You think about that while you're playing caregiver. The words stung because there was truth in them. What happened when this all ended? When Romano backed off and Rosa could go back to her real life? Would she break Marco's heart by leaving? Alessandro watched it all from a distance. He stood at his office window, observing Rosa and Marco in the garden below. She was teaching Marco to throw a ball, adapting the game to his abilities, cheering every success like it was an Olympic victory. She's a natural, Vincent said, joining him at the window. She is. The men are split. Half think she's genuine. Half think she's playing an angle. What do you think? Alessandro asked. Vincent was quiet for a moment. I think she's the first person in 3 years who's made Marco feel normal. That's worth something. It's worth everything, Alessandro corrected quietly. Below, Marco laughed at something Rosa said, and Alessandro felt that familiar tightness in his chest. Boss, you're getting attached, Vincent warned. To both of them. I know. That's dangerous. Alessandro turned from the window. Everything worth having is dangerous, Vincent. You taught me that. I also taught you not to show weakness. Maybe I'm tired of being invincible. Alessandro looked at his oldest friend. Maybe I want my son to have someone who makes him laugh. Is that so wrong? Vincent sighed. No, boss. It's not wrong. It's just complicated. Everything in our world is complicated. Alessandro returned to his desk, but his mind stayed in the garden with his son and the waitress who was slowly becoming indispensable. He knew Rosa was temporary. She'd made that clear. But watching Marco thrive under her care, Alessandro realized something terrifying. He didn't want her to be temporary anymore. And that was the most dangerous feeling of all. Rosa had argued against the botanical garden trip. It's too public, she told Alessandro that morning. After everything with Romano, Marco needs to live his life, Alessandro said firmly. He's been cooped up for 3 years. You've given him confidence. Let him use it. So here they were on a sunny Tuesday afternoon, surrounded by spring flowers and families enjoying the Chicago Botanic Garden. Marco was thrilled, pointing out different plants, asking Rosa questions about everything. Tony and Marcus flanked them, 2 more guards trailing behind. Discreet but present. Rosa tried to relax, but something felt off. Rosa, look. Marco pointed to a butterfly garden ahead. Can we go there? Absolutely. Rosa pushed his wheelchair down the path, smiling at his excitement. This was good for him.
Alessandro was right.
They were admiring the monarchs when Rosa noticed the van.
White.
Generic. Parked in a service area near the garden's maintenance shed. Nothing unusual about it, except it had been there when they arrived 20 minutes ago, and the driver was still sitting inside. Not reading his phone. Not sleeping.
Just
watching. Rosa's stomach tightened. Tony, she said quietly, not taking her eyes off the van. That vehicle. Service area. How long has it been there? Tony followed her gaze, his posture immediately shifting. I'll check it out. Wait, Rosa's instinct screamed. Marco, buddy, let's go look at those roses over there. The red ones. But the butterflies. Trust me. The roses are cooler. Rosa turned his chair, steering away from the open courtyard and toward a more sheltered path lined with hedges. Her heart pounded. Marcus moved closer. What did you see? Van's been stationary too long. Drivers watching us, not working. Rosa kept her voice calm for Marco's sake, but her hands gripped the wheelchair tighter. And look, 3 o'clock. 2 men by the fountain. They've been keeping pace with us. Marcus's hand moved inside his jacket. Tony, we're relocating.
Now.
But before Tony could respond, the van's back doors burst open. 4 men spilled out, moving fast toward them. Not running. That would draw attention, but walking with purpose. One spoke into a radio. Go. Tony barked. Rosa didn't think. She shoved Marco's wheelchair down the side path at full speed, adrenaline overriding everything else. Marcus ran beside her, gun drawn now, civilians screaming and scattering. What's happening? Marco's voice was scared. Just hold on, buddy. Rosa's mind raced. The path ahead curved around a greenhouse. If they could reach the visitor center, more people, more witnesses. A man stepped out from behind a hedge, blocking their path. Marcus fired a warning shot in the air. The man dove for cover. Rosa yanked the wheelchair hard left, taking a maintenance path she'd noticed earlier. Narrower. More cover. Tony, where are you? Marcus shouted into his radio. Engaged. 2 hostiles down. Get the kid out of here. Rosa's lungs burned. The wheelchair wasn't built for speed, and Marco's weight made it hard to maneuver. Behind them, footsteps pounded closer. Think. Think. She spotted a greenhouse ahead, staff only. The door was propped open with a bucket. In here. Rosa pushed through the entrance, Marcus right behind her. He slammed the door shut, looking for a lock. There. Rosa pointed to a metal crossbar. Marcus jammed it through the handles just as bodies hit the door from outside. They were trapped. Rosa looked around frantically. Rows of plants. Tools. Windows too high to break, and climb through while pushing a wheelchair. And Marco was hyperventilating, terrified. Marco, look at me. Rosa knelt beside him, forcing calm into her voice. You're safe. We're safe. Breathe with me. In. Out. The door shuddered under repeated impacts. Marcus was on his radio. We're pinned in Greenhouse 3. Need immediate backup. Rosa's eyes landed on a large bag of fertilizer. Then the industrial sprinkler system overhead. An idea formed, crazy, but maybe their only chance. Can you shoot that? She pointed to the sprinkler valve on the wall. Marcus looked at her like she was insane. What? Just trust me. He fired. Water exploded from every sprinkler head, drenching everything in seconds. Rosa grabbed the fertilizer bag, tore it open, and dumped it near the door. When they come through, the floor will be slick, she explained rapidly. They'll slip. We run for the back exit there. She pointed to a service door she'd spotted. That's actually smart, Marcus admitted. The door's crossbar bent. Breaking. 5 seconds. 3. It burst open. The first man threw hit the wet fertilizer, and his feet flew out from under him. He crashed hard. The second man tried to stop, slipped, fell backward into the third. Now. Marcus grabbed Marco's wheelchair. Rosa ran ahead, shoving open the service door. They emerged into blinding sunlight and straight into Tony and 6 other armed men. Get down, Tony shouted. Rosa and Marcus hit the ground, covering Marco. Gunfire cracked through the air. Short bursts. Professional. When Rosa looked up, 3 men were face down on the ground, hands behind their heads. It was over. Alessandro arrived 7 minutes later, tires screeching, his face a mask of cold fury. He swept past his men, past the detained attackers, straight to Marco. Are you hurt? His hands checked his son for injuries, gentle despite the terror in his eyes. I'm okay, Dad. Rosa saved me. Alessandro's gaze shifted to Rosa, who was still shaking with adrenaline. He stood, closed the distance between them, and for one moment she thought he might actually embrace her. Instead, he said, How did you know? The van. It didn't fit. And those men were too coordinated to be random. Rosa swallowed hard. I grew up in a rough neighborhood. You learn to spot trouble. Alessandro stared at her with an expression she couldn't read. Then he turned to Vincent, who'd arrived with him.
Hire her, he said.
Boss. Not as Marco's aide. As his security consultant. She saw what trained professionals missed. Alessandro looked back at Rosa. You saved my son's life. That makes you family now, whether you like it or not. Rosa's legs finally gave out. She sat down hard on the grass, the reality of what almost happened crashing over her. Marco wheeled closer, reaching for her hand. Thank you, he whispered. Rosa squeezed his hand back, unable to speak. She'd stopped being just a waitress weeks ago. Today, she'd become something else entirely. The dining room at the Moretti estate could seat 20 people easily. Tonight it held 12. Rosa sat at the long mahogany table, acutely aware that she was the only woman present and, definitely, the only person wearing a simple dress from Target. Every man here wore expensive suits, their faces hard with experience and secrets. She recognized some of them. Vincent, of course, sitting at Alessandro's right hand. Tony and Marcus, who'd protected her at the botanical garden. Others she'd seen around the estate but never spoken to, captains, soldiers, men who ran the Moretti organization's various operations. This wasn't just dinner. This was something else. Alessandro sat at the head of the table, commanding the room without saying a word. He'd barely spoken since they'd gathered, just watched his men eat and make small talk about sports and weather, anything but the real business they were here to discuss. Rosa pushed food around her plate, too nervous to eat. Finally, Alessandro set down his fork. The room went silent instantly. Thank you all for coming, Alessandro began. I know you're wondering why I called this dinner. Some of you probably think you know, his eyes swept the table. But I want to make something clear before rumors spread further. Rosa's stomach dropped. This was about her. 4 days ago, my son was nearly kidnapped, Alessandro continued, his voice hard. 4 trained men from Romano's crew made their move in a public space, and they almost succeeded. Our security missed the signs. Our protocols failed. Tony shifted uncomfortably. Several men exchanged glances. But one person saw it coming, Alessandro said. One person recognized the threat, acted decisively, and saved Marco's life. That person wasn't a trained bodyguard, wasn't a soldier, wasn't anyone in this organization. He looked directly at Rosa. It was a 23-year-old waitress who learned to spot danger growing up on the South Side. Rosa felt every eye turn to her. She wanted to disappear. Rosa Martinez has been living on this estate for over a week now, Alessandro continued. Some of you have welcomed her. Others have questioned her presence. I've heard the whispers. What's her angle? Why is she really here? How long until she asks for money? Rosa's cheeks burned. Let me answer those questions. Alessandro's voice was steel. She has no angle. She's here because she's the only person in 3 years who's made my son feel like a human being instead of a burden. And she's staying because she's proven she'll protect him with her life. Vincent leaned forward. Boss, no one's questioning her actions at the garden. She did good. But formally bringing her into the family. I'm not asking for opinions, Vincent. I'm telling you how it is. Alessandro stood, and the power shift in the room was palpable. As of tonight, Rosa Martinez is officially appointed as Marco's personal aide and companion. She has full protection under my name. Anyone who threatens her, threatens me. Anyone who questions her, questions me. With respect, boss, a man Rosa didn't know spoke up. She's an outsider. She doesn't understand our world. What happens if she sees something she shouldn't? Hears something? Then she'll keep her mouth shut, like everyone else who values their life, Alessandro said flatly. But Rosa's not stupid. She knows what discretion means. It's not about discretion, another man argued. It's about loyalty. She's not blood. She's not even Italian. How do we know she won't? Enough, Alessandro's voice cracked like a whip. You want to talk about loyalty? Rosa had every chance to walk away. After the viral video, after the harassment, after Romano's men left photos under her door, she could have disappeared. Changed her name. Left Chicago. Instead, she came here and put herself in the line of fire for my son. He paused, letting that sink in. Half the men in this room would have run, if given the choice. She stayed. So don't talk to me about loyalty. Silence. Heavy and uncomfortable. Alessandro turned to Rosa, his expression softening. I know you didn't ask for this. You wanted a quiet life, a normal job, to help your family. I'm sorry I couldn't give you that. He picked up a glass of wine. But if you're willing to stay, to really stay, you'll have my complete protection. My resources. My family support. You'll be safe. Your mother will be safe. Your brother will get the best therapy money can buy. Rosa's throat tightened. Alessandro. You don't have to decide tonight, he said gently. But if you say yes, you're one of us.
Completely.
That means protection, but it also means responsibility.
Can you handle that?
Rosa looked around the table at these dangerous men, then thought of Marco upstairs, probably reading Harry Potter with his nurse, waiting for Rosa to come say goodnight like she did every evening. She thought of how Marco had hugged her after the botanical garden incident, how he'd whispered, "You're my hero," in his halting voice. She thought of Alessandro's face when he'd arrived at the garden, pure terror that he'd lost his son. These weren't just criminals. They were a family, flawed and violent and complicated, yes, but family. And somehow, she'd become part of it. I can handle it, Rosa said, her voice steadier than she felt. Alessandro raised his glass. Then it's official. Rosa Martinez is under Moretti protection. Anyone have a problem with that? No one spoke. Good, Alessandro smiled, a real smile that transformed his entire face. Welcome to the family, Rosa. Vincent raised his glass reluctantly, and others followed. To Rosa, the room echoed. Rosa lifted her own glass with shaking hands, feeling the weight of what she'd just agreed to. She'd come to this estate as a temporary refuge. Now she was leaving this dinner as something she never imagined. A member of the Moretti family. For better or worse, her old life was truly over. And somehow, despite everything, that didn't terrify her as much as it should have. The grand ballroom of the Drake Hotel glittered like something from a fairy tale. Rosa stood in front of the full-length mirror in her guest house, barely recognizing herself. The midnight blue gown, selected by Alessandro's personal stylist, fit perfectly, elegant without being ostentatious. Her hair was swept up, simple diamond earrings catching the light. She looked like she belonged in this world. The realization was both thrilling and terrifying. You look beautiful, Marco said from the doorway, dressed in a sharp suit, his wheelchair polished to perfection. You clean up pretty nice yourself, buddy, Rosa smiled, but her hands shook slightly. I don't know if I can do this. Yes, you can, Marco wheeled closer. You're the bravest.
Pezzoni no.
2 weeks. That's all it had been since the botanical garden, since the formal dinner. 2 weeks of intensive media training, etiquette lessons, and learning to navigate a world she'd only seen from the outside. Alessandro had spared no expense transforming her from waitress to whatever she was now. But tonight was the real test. The annual Children's Medical Charity Gala, Chicago's elite gathering to raise money for pediatric health care. The same crowd that had attended the lunch where this all began. Only now Rosa wasn't serving them. She was one of them. Ready. Alessandro appeared, devastatingly handsome in a tuxedo. His eyes softened when he saw her. You look stunning. I look terrified. That too, he offered his arm. But you're not alone. The moment they entered the ballroom, cameras flashed like lightning. But this time, the press wasn't hunting Rosa, they were celebrating her. Rosa! Over here. You look amazing. Rosa, how does it feel to be Chicago's newest philanthropist? Is it true you're funding a new adaptive sports program? That had been Alessandro's idea. Give them a story they can celebrate instead of speculate about, he'd said. So they'd announced Rosa's foundation, funded by the Moretti family, to provide resources for families with special needs children. The headlines had been glowing. From waitress to warrior, Rosa Martinez's inspiring journey. Rosa smiled for the cameras, one hand on Marco's shoulder, while Alessandro stood slightly behind them. Protective.
Proud.
Inside the ballroom, the transformation was complete. People who'd whispered about her 2 weeks ago now approached with warm smiles and congratulations. Politicians shook her hand. Society wives complimented her dress. Business moguls asked about her foundation's mission. And her Marco, absolutely glowed. Rosa, this is Senator Chin, Marco said, his speech clearer than it had ever been. He'd been practicing with a new speech therapist. He wants to support our foundation. It's wonderful what you're doing, the senator said warmly. My nephew has cerebral palsy. Access to adaptive equipment changes life. Rosa watched Marco engage in the conversation, his confidence soaring. He wasn't hiding anymore. Wasn't the invisible boy in the corner while adults talked over him.
He was participating.
Living. Across the room, Alessandro stood with Vincent, watching. You did good, boss, Vincent said quietly. The kid's a different person. Rosa did that. Not me. You brought her into his life. That counts, Vincent paused. You know people are talking. About you and her. Alessandro had heard the rumors. That Rosa was more than just Marco's aide. That the Mafia boss had fallen for the Waitress. The tabloids would love that story. The truth was more complicated. He watched Rosa laugh at something Marco said, her whole face lighting up with genuine joy. She'd given him back his son. She'd made Marco believe in himself again. She'd done what millions of dollars in therapy couldn't do. She'd made Marco feel normal. And yes, somewhere along the way, she'd done something to Alessandro too. She'd reminded him what it felt like to hope. Let them talk, Alessandro said simply. Later, during the silent auction, Rosa found Alessandro alone on the terrace. You okay? She asked. I should ask you that. This is a lot. Rosa leaned against the railing, looking at the Chicago skyline. You know what's weird? A month ago, I would have been inside that ballroom serving champagne. Now I'm drinking it. Regrets. Some days, she was honest. I miss the simplicity. I miss being invisible. But then Marco does something amazing like tonight, and I think, maybe this is where I'm supposed to be. Alessandro moved beside her. You changed everything, Rosa. Not just for Marco. For me too. Rosa looked up at him, seeing vulnerability she'd never expected from Alessandro Moretti. I spent 5 years being angry at the world for taking Maria, Alessandro continued quietly. Angry at myself for not protecting Marco from grief. I built walls so high that I forgot what it felt like to let someone in. He met her eyes. You climbed those walls like they were nothing. You didn't see a mafia boss or a disabled kid. You just saw people. That's all you are, Rosa said softly. People trying to survive. Just like everyone else. Alessandro smiled, real and warm.
See?
That's exactly what I mean. Inside, music started. The first dance. Come on, Rosa said, taking his hand. Your son is waiting. And I promised him a dance. They returned to the ballroom where Marco waited, excitement clear on his face. Rosa danced with him, wheelchair and all, adapting the movements, making it work, making him feel included. Around them, the crowd watched and smiled. The viral video had shown a moment of kindness. But this was transformation. Rosa Martinez had stepped from obscurity into a world that should have crushed her. Instead, she'd bent it to accommodate compassion. And in doing so, she'd saved more than just Marco's life. She'd saved his father's heart too.